Hello, friends. You're listening to Heart with Saima, the podcast show for people searching for that courageous person within us who wants to be inspired by listening to stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm Saima Dillon, your host. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. Let's dive right in. My guest today is Wendy Weiner. She is an award winning film producer, writer, and keynote speaker. Now What Studios is their production company where they create original, powerful entertainment. They seek to incite gratitude in order to change perspectives. So, without waiting, I am going to bring Wendy here. Hello and welcome to
Hello.
Heart with Saima, Wendy.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, and it's an honor
Beautiful.
and privilege to have you on my show. How are
Th-
you today?
Thank you for inviting me to Venice. I truly appreciate the vacation. It's so hard to travel nowadays. I didn't have to wear a mask. I could just turn on my iPad, and here we are in Venice. What
So
shall
we're
we?
both on the
Where shall we
same
eat?
gondola.
Oh,
See,
where?
we're both.
Yes, exactly. Should get a glass of wine and just keep talking. There we go.
It would be perfect, right? Just even though I don't drink, but I think
Yeah, I know.
I will use a Coke and you get wine, and I think it
There we
can
go.
turn into a beautiful afternoon.
I agree. Thank you for
So,
inviting me.
absolutely, Wendy. So, I'm going to hand over the screen to you, and I'm going to let you do an introduction about yourself. And so, here you go.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here. I want to play with the dogs, actually. That would be really fun. I am not in my home studio at all. I live in Minnesota, which is extraordinarily cold right now. So I'm kind of glad, more than kind of glad, to be spending quite a bit of time in Seattle this winter because I'm here for the purpose of, helping my parents transition from with my sister in her house, which is where I am today, into a facility that will give them more care, better nursing care. Sadly, we're not nurses or doctors. We were not able to facilitate that, and not that my parents ever pushed us to do that, but it might have come in handy at this time. So I'm here in Seattle, where it's probably about 40 something degrees. And the sunshine is out, which is such an unusual thing for Seattle because I think it rains like 300 days a year. And everything is green and lush. So for all those on the East Coast or in the Midwest who are suffering under lots of scarves and blankets and by the fireplace, I I really, my heart goes out to you, but at the same time, I'm going to go take a walk and just wear a sweater and be done. And so later on, so my parents are fantastic people, and they have absolutely, they are the giant, some among the giants that we stand on their shoulders. My father's a fantastic and prolific storyteller, and my mother's an actress and a theatrical costumer. And I spent a lot of time, interestingly enough, because because they were so involved in the theater and they owned a theater when I was growing up, that it was just kind of a natural segue from going from a storyteller to actually becoming a film producer. And that's so to writing and producing and to being involved in the process of telling big stories to inspire big thoughts and warm big hearts in people. And that's what I do.
That is so beautiful. Warm, big hearts in people. That
Yes.
right there is so beautiful. Wendy, you said your mom was an actress, and
Yes.
and
Yes.
that inspired you to enter uh, this field of film production.
Yeah, I grew up in it and then went away from it I went through college in New York City, and then I thought I was done. And then someone about 14 years ago handed me a script. And I'd been in development and marketing and I really only have, I really only have three skills. I mean, I'm not being self-effacing. I can tell a good story. I can write. And my best skill probably is that, I'm so blessed. I'm able to collect amazing people who do the rest of the stuff. So my job is to I'm the 10,000 foot gal. And I spend a lot of time trying to say, okay, like who fits where and whose creative talent is going to emphasize, is going to support this. And how do we get this put together? And so that's what I do. I do the business part of show business, but I also I'm allowed, my partner and I create. So we have created this series that is in development in Hollywood right now. So we're very excited about it. It's just a really empowering, wonderful series of books that will go much bigger soon.
So that's pretty exciting. So share with us, tell us more about so before we actually even go there, so how did you get started? Tell us about how did you get started? How did you get into film production? How did you how did you, like you said, you're an expert in putting the
only three things. That's it. That's all I've got. Those three things.
So you put those pieces together, pieces to the puzzle. How do you manage to do that?
Very good question. Thank you for asking. Someone handed me a script 14 years ago, and because I'd never written a screenplay or a script, but I've read a lot of scripts. I'd performed a little bit, enough. I was able to read it, and as just a total third party, this is interesting. I said, look, I like the character arcs. I like the way you enter the story. I think it's a very interesting piece. I wish you good luck. And I handed it back. And the gentleman said, I didn't know him that well. And he said, well, what did you think about the first 12 pages? He asked me. I said, it was a really interesting way to enter the story. It was completely unexpected. And he said, good. He said, and he kept pushing the script back to me. I'd hand it to him and he'd push it back to me. And he said, well, I was hoping we could pull out the first 12 pages and shoot that as a short film to kind of give an idea to Hollywood what it all looks like and kind of as a teaser. And I was wondering if you'd executive produce it. I have to admit, Saima, that I went to the Google and I had to look up executive producer because I didn't know what executive producers do. So I quickly found that we do the business part of show business. There's a reason why the word business is twice as long as the word show, because there's so much more business involved than there is show. The film may be 2 hours, but there's 10 years of business that goes into it, between the distribution issues and how do you negotiate a contract with an actor and how do you get a crew together, and are you SAG, non-SAG, all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of business that's involved. And that said, so it was doing the business part, and I was like, oh, it'll be fun. I went home to my husband. I said, Peter, I'm going to do this for the summer. And he's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then we produced a short film, and I borrowed a house from someone, and I borrowed a house. I sent them to Alaska for a week, to shoot this film, and we shot it, and it worked out. Edited it, turned out it was kind of a cool little film, just as a prelude for another film. And started to enter it in film festivals, and we sent it to some people we knew in Hollywood, somebody's wife's roommate in college, that kind of thing. And all of a sudden I had a deal in Hollywood, but only if I was connected, if I was attached. So it was well, I didn't plan to do this for my life. I just thought it would be a fun, check it off your list. Oh yeah, I produced a short film. And all of a sudden it went to Hollywood. And then that was kind of, that was it. And it's an amazing, interesting process in just how it all has to come together. And then, so I was offered the opportunity to produce this. I got a phone call from the film commissioner from the state of Iowa. The film commissioner was the man in charge of their whole incentive program. And he called me directly and he said, I hear you have a film and you're looking to shoot that somewhere. Well, Iowa has incentives that are very, very beneficial, and you should come and come down and look at it. I look at our program. Well, my parents were born and raised in Iowa, and my grandparents owned businesses in Iowa. And so it was like a natural thing. And I was just on the border. So I said, I'll come down and look at it. And I was able to shoot a film, in the feature film, in Western Iowa. And really do have a lot of positive impact in the community. I'd worked in economic development before, and being that you can really infuse you bring a lot of people into town, you're paying for hotels and meals and caterers, and I even had to find an emergency dentist at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning because our lead actor had previously had his teeth knocked out by an Academy Award-winning actress in another film. And so she hit him with a lawn chair, and he forgot to move and knocked
Oh my
his teeth
gosh.
out. And we had to get those cemented back in. Like, there was stuff. You're putting. The dogs are loving the story. So and they put a lot of. Yeah. So put a lot. Like, you're putting a lot of people to work, which was a great thing, because it was such a terribly difficult economic time, and that's why Iowa had enacted this legislation. So I did what they told me to do. Every single step of the way, every government official we met with said, yes, you've filled out everything. You've done what you're supposed to do. We had 3 attorneys that worked on the project with me full-time, an entertainment attorney who actually produced one of my films. And then I had 2 in Iowa. And then I had a business attorney and a CPA attorney. And they all yes, we're in agreement. Yes, yes, yes. Until the program collapsed in Iowa. And when the program collapsed in Iowa, I was holding the most registered contracts with the state. I had $84 million worth of contracts for future film projects. We completed the first 2, and they were so happy with us that I went and recruited Penny Marshall's team to do a project in Iowa. May she rest in peace now. And the producers from the movie The Help, I knew them. So I said, you've got to come. It's a great system. Well, the system collapsed, and it collapsed on me. And so in February 10th, as a matter of fact, tomorrow, 11 years ago, I got a phone call that there's a warrant for your arrest. Oh, wow. And I was in Minnesota, and I said, why? And they said, well, we think you committed a bunch of fraud, or intended to commit fraud, and we have 15 felony counts against you. I was like, what are you talking about? So, and they said, oh, but don't worry, we've already arrested the state official who told you what to do. He was a state official. From that day till today, I went through trial. I went to prison. They never asked me what happened. Not one time did they ever say, could we ask you what went on here? Could you tell us what's going on? Never. They wouldn't talk to me. They just pushed me through to trial, put a terrible trial at a very, 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 very highly regarded attorney. And every day we'd walk in and they'd say, oh, you know that evidence you were going to present today? We're not going to let it. The judge would say, it's inadmissible. And you're like, it just, every day the rules would change, as it did when we spend a lot of time working on the projects, and we'd ask, what are the rules? And they'd say, well, it's this, but tomorrow it's that. So I give the example all the time. If you and I were driving and we got to a red light and there was a police officer in the intersection and the police officer waved us through, what would we do? We'd drive through, because the police officer in a uniform, he waved us through. He said, come on, go through the red light. So we would. Right? You'd think we'd stop because there's a red light, but he says go through. A police officer, a person supersedes electronics.
Yeah, yeah.
So then let's say we got to the other side of the intersection, and on the other side of the intersection, another police officer stops us. And you roll down the window and you say, officer, what happened? And you say, I have to give you a ticket because you just ran a red light. And you say, but officer, that police officer in the intersection told me to go through. I had to go through it. And he looks back and he says, oh, you weren't supposed to listen to that guy. Well, how do you know? You're in the intersection. If the state official tells you what to do,
you're going to
do it. As evidenced by the fact that you do it. So the judge judged me very harshly. And he said, you've corrupted 2 different departments of state government, and you show no remorse, and you're going to prison for 10 years. They gave me a 10-year sentence in a women's maximum security prison. No money changed hands. No, the crime that they said at the end I did was I forwarded an email from this executive to a friend of mine, a woman that I knew. That was it. And they said, well, that shows that maybe you were trying to. I said, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to trust him. How would I ever know? And I apologized. And they said, it's not enough. Okay. So I fought it. it like crazy, like 10-year sentence. That's incredible. Like, why are they doing this? 6 weeks after I was sentenced to 10 years, the same judge brought the state official who had 9 felony counts against him, he went to trial. And he had 9 felony counts, and he was acquitted of 8 by a jury. And the one felony count he was guilty of was Gesundheit, was felonious misconduct in office for misdirecting me. He was judged by a jury to be criminally liable for misdirecting me by name. And the same judge who gave me 10 years because I had ruined everything, right? Said to him, "Sir, you were clearly overworked in your position," and he gave him a $750 fine. And the former state official wrote a check and walked away.
So they were looking for
fought this. Yep. So I surrendered 2 years later. I had run out of my appeals. I surrendered and went to prison. And I spent 6 months and 4 days in a women's maximum security prison. And I promise you, it was the most fascinating time of my life. Now, I have a lot of great time. So I met the most amazing people with strength and dignity, and innocent women who did not belong in prison, who had life sentences. They did not participate in them, but because they were there or someone said they did it, they didn't know how to defend themselves. And it was heart-wrenching. So I did my best while I was there to counsel, to mentor, to write appeals, to write commutations. So there are 2 women who are life with no chance of parole, who one was there for 18 years, one was there for 32 and a half years. Both of them became my friends. There's a way, I wish I could describe it to a person. There's a way that an innocent person walks. There's a way that people who are guilty, they know that they've done this thing and they have some remorse for it. And there's a way that innocent people walk. And these 2 women who had no chance of parole, one of them was there 18 years on a drug charge that she did not commit this crime. She did not have anything to do with it at all. She was framed. I believe it. I read all of her material. I wrote her commutation, and President Obama granted her, commuted her sentence and freed her. And when I called her after she was free, all I could do was cry. I wrote the commutation. She told me her story. I wrote it. We submitted it. And all I could do was cry. And she said to me, I was free by this time. I was free. I'll explain this. But she said the only thing that was missing when we heard from the president that my sentence was commuted was that you weren't in prison to celebrate with us, because it wouldn't have happened without you. Now, obviously, her story was so compelling and so out of your, there's just no way a person, if they read it, they would look at it and say, "Oh, this is supposed to be like this." It's not. And she's free today. She's my Facebook friend, and it's just wonderful to see her with her family and growing her grandkids and everything. And she's just it's crazy. It's crazy. Thank God. Right. I'm so grateful. Another one. 2 years. And
people touch lives, but you actually did
it was
something
amazing.
Just remarkable by just changing someone's entire journey, destiny.
Right place,
someone's fate.
Right place, right time, right skills. I've got 3 skills, right? So we're going to use those, but it was incredible to be able to tell their stories, to elicit their stories, hear that. There was a woman, I've talked about this before, who was brutally beaten in prison. And she was her parole was denied by the parole board, because they weren't sure if she was in control of her anger, but she was brutally beaten by a woman who was mentally ill. And so, the woman just attacked her like this. And it was a terrible scenario. And then a few weeks later, she was in the hospital for a while. Then she came back and she was denied parole. So I said, no, we have to appeal that. She's like, no, I'll wait a year. No. And within 10 days, we wrote the appeal. I said, this is clearly, if she did not retaliate on this woman, did not to do anything, clearly she's made her peace, that she has a perfect control of her anger and her ability to respond. And sure enough, the gates opened and she went home to her kids. So you have this opportunity when you're in a situation you think, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? We just talked about this. Why is this happening to me? If we flip the mirror and say, what is this supposed to teach me? It becomes a positive experience. Car accidents or anything, God forbid, someone's illness, like all those things are so hard. Why is this happening to me? But if we can look at it from the other side of the mirror and say, what is this to teach me? If we learn from it, the results are going to be so much more powerfully effective because we're going to be grateful for the scenario. We're going to be grateful for the lessons, and it becomes a much more positive event. Sure enough, after 6 months, the chief judge took the case away from the judge who'd been dealing with this before, and he brought me into court and he said, I don't know why you're here at all. He said, had I been presiding on this case, it would have been a completely different outcome. You're going home right now. And he sent me home, and that's how I went home. It was amazing. And he said to me the most amazing thing.
No, I was just saying that.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I was just saying that, sometimes I've just started believing that sometimes when you need something, Wendy, you got to do it. So if you need something in your life and you give it to someone else, I feel that it's that law of karma.
Absolutely.
It will ricochet back to you.
Right. If you say, I know you need something. I have a friend who needs something, and I say, I'm going to put all my effort into praying to do my efforts. Anything I can do that's good is the energy is going to go so that you have what you need. If it's, you're healed, or if it's, you get the job you want, whatever. It just happens wonderfully, miraculously, that it happens to you as well. The good comes to us. We try and give, and it just keeps coming back. Which is a great thing. So it was a fantastic experience. I would not recommend it to anybody. Like, oh, what am I doing the next 10 years? No, I would not recommend it. And it's a crazy system, and it was a disgusting place, and occasionally there were guards who were predators, and male guards, and there were things that you like, okay, take warning, you have to be very careful about. On the other hand, there were these beautiful stories of women who never had permission to achieve their dreams, and suddenly someone, who am I? I'm a stranger. I say, you can do that. You can achieve your dreams. You can do this. And all of a sudden, their perspective changed. And that was a really important thing to me. My why is to, I see it on the bottom of the screen, thank you, is to incite gratitude. My goal is not to inspire gratitude. That means I did something. My whole persona, everything I focus on, is to empower people to think of something good or bad that happened to them, and to find something inside that to be grateful for. And because I believe gratitude is a catalyst for heroic action. Because I'm grateful, I'm going to do something. Now, the key is really, I'm happy to give needs a good word, or they need a reference, or they need something that I can do. Whenever I am blessed to have a new LinkedIn contact, I try and immediately respond with, how can I add fuel to your fire? That's my goal. How can I give you something? You found me somehow. There are no coincidences. It's all karma. So how can I possibly add something of value for you? And if it's just, well, I'm happy to follow you and see what you have to say, that's fine. But sometimes a young man found me today, and he said, and he lives not very far from here in Seattle, and he said, I found you, and I want to be a filmmaker, and I just need someone to talk to. I'm happy to have a conversation. I'm happy to meet him for a cup of coffee. He's just a young man. I do it, as much as I can, have those conversations. Actors, people who are looking to break free, go further, do something that's extraordinary, but they're waiting for someone to give them permission. I'd love to give people permission. I give you permission to be the greatest person you can be, to have the most success you can have, to do something that you thought that nobody thought, oh, that's normal. And you thought, but it's so in me, I have to do it. Go ahead, I'll give you permission. And if I can be of assistance, if my beautiful contacts can help, I'm happy to do it. Okay, I'll stop talking.
But that's just so wonderful, right? I mean, different people, different energies, whether people are trying to succeed in something that they're wanting to do. You know
Right.
what? It's liberating to turn into a person who gives. It's just, it frees your soul.
And imagine if someone's never been told they could do it. I have a delightful business partner, and it comes, of course, with the greatest story possible. So, my producing partner is a young man named Noah Bewley, and Noah and I met when I was in Los Angeles, and I had just made a decision to step out of a big project that I was producing. A lot of challenges with it, and I was standing on the corner in Los Angeles at 10:30 at night, and I was staying with a friend quite far away, and I called a Lyft. And for some reason, I've always used Lyft. I don't know why. I rarely use Uber. And I called Lyft, and sure enough, he accepts my ride. I look at the little tiny photograph, on the app, and you're like, oh, a young man, that's cool. Whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It could be anybody. I don't care. So it could be, okay. So I look at that and fine. So I get in his car, but it's 10:30 at night because I kind of want to, hi, Noah, I'm Wendy. Hi, Wendy. And we start talking, and we have a 51-minute drive because it's pretty far. And he was fascinating, just fascinating. He said, I moved from the central coast of California. I am writing a screenplay. I'm living with some friends in Pasadena. It's what you hear almost every millennial in California say. Either they want to be an actor or they want to be a screenwriter. Great. And so I said, that's fantastic. How are you? Do you have, how's the dialogue going? And how's this and how's that? Like the things, because I've read a lot of scripts now, obviously. And he said, oh, that's very interesting. Like he very much took my very seriously. He had a tone of voice. He was very serious, very humble, just a really, there was something about his voice that to this day I love it. And I said to him, and I said, here's my card or my contact information, and with my contact information, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help you. I know some wonderful people in here in LA. I don't live in LA, I live in Minnesota, but I know some wonderful people, and I'm sure they'd be happy to help you and have a coffee with you or something. And he said, all right, thank you so much. I will be in touch. Now, a lot of millennials say that. Oh, yeah, I met a producer in the car, and they say it. But 2 days later, I was back in Minnesota, and sure enough, I get an email, and the subject line just has one thing. Hi, this is Noah, your Lyft driver, and a smiley face. And that was all it said. And I emailed back, I'm so glad. I was kind of on fire after this meeting. I really appreciate the fact that you reached out so quickly. I'm more than happy to help you achieve your dreams. Tell me, what can I do? He said, well, I'd like to just keep talking with you. And I started sending him articles and posts. And do you think this is interesting about screenwriting and this and all this kind of stuff, right? Back and forth for 2 months. And then our youngest daughter, so I've been married 34 years. Our youngest daughter is 19, but she was 14 at the time. And she's smarter than I'll ever be. So I'm not kidding. She is smarter than I'll ever be. All of them are. Totally eclipse me. So she said, Mom, you're spending a lot more time mentoring Noah than you do the rest of your strays. And that's what they call them, mommy's strays, because I like to pick up people because I collect people. And so she said, this is what she said to me, you should, it gets better. She says, you should Google him and see if he's a serial killer. And I said, Google has that? Really? Google has that? And she said, and it was just, and she just walked off. So here's what happened. Like the craziest things, if we have to go to break right now, it's perfect time. But anyway, so the craziest thing happens. I Google his name, and what pops up is a stunning modeling portfolio. Wow. I am blessed to a lot of auditions. I see a lot of headshots, and I had never seen something like this. And this was like very high-end designers and GQ magazine spreads and Abercrombie, like just full. And I kept Googling his name again, thinking maybe, no, I spelled it right. I mean, I've been talking to him. So humble, this young man. So this man, this spirit, right? So I texted him and I
Do
asked him,
share
could
the
we have
name so we can
FaceTime? And he
Google
said,
him too.
oh yeah, you'll be like, oh. So I texted him and I said, could we have FaceTime? He said, oh, I'd love that. That's a great idea. How about tonight at 10 o'clock? And I said, oh, that's perfect. So 10 o'clock, face comes up. It's that face. It's like the opposite of catfish. It was this beautiful face. And the first thing I said to him is I said, I'm so glad I loved your soul before I saw your face. He knows I'm a grandma. Like, he doesn't. And I said, I'm so glad I loved your soul before I saw your face. And he said, me too. And then I said, so is this you? And I held my phone up to my laptop and I was like, showing him and he said, didn't I mention? No. He said, I've been a high fashion model since I was 14. I was discovered by a photographer, and I was immediately signed by Adidas International. And then I did this through high school and, whatever, and I would do months and here and this, and I'd go to Australia for 3 days and South Africa for 3 days, do walking stuff. And I'd done some film and I'd done some television. I was like, no, you didn't tell me any of this. And he said, you never Google me? I said, I'm a convicted felon. Did you ever Google me? He's like, no, I don't care. I'm like, okay, it's great. So I said, so then I and it was just the face, yeah. So it's such a privilege to look at that face and go, that's my partner. So anyway, because there's just such kindness, and I've walked into thousands, but I've walked into like a Starbucks where he just strides in, tall and slender, really self-possessed, and all the baristas like drop what they're working on. They're just shocked because he's just, thank you so much. This is delicious. Thank you. He's just so kind and precise. Checks her name.
So now we
you.
really will need to Google him.
I appreciate it so much.
So Noah is going to see that all of a sudden his
amazing.
Google ratings have gone up because everyone who's listening to the show is now going to go on Google and Google him.
Yeah. He's right. He's so humble. I'm going to show you my favorite picture, which you won't find on. I'm going to put it up the phone because you won't find this on Instagram or anything else. Oh, maybe, I don't know. But this is my very favorite picture, and the reason I show you this is because this is really who he is. So this. Let's see if I get this here. Whoops.
If you can see it,
that's him with my mom. Can you see it?
Oh yes.
Is it right? Can you see it?
Yeah. How old is he?
He's let's see, he's 27 now. Okay, so and then with my dad, and he loves my parents. My parents love him. He's like another grandchild, except we never had a grandchild who was that tall and that looked like that ever. We make them really good. We don't make them tall, and we make them cute. We don't make them tall. We don't make them look like that. So thank God. Anyway, so so you don't know when you cross paths with someone how much value they're going to add to your life, and vice versa, how much value you might be able to add to theirs. So I'm going to give you a great real estate example. My father was a real estate broker, and I love this example, and it's so appropriate for you because this is who I believe you are at heart. Ready? The dogs agree. I'm glad. My father would always ask the question. For 40 years, he was a real estate broker, and he asked the question, what sells a house? So in a smaller town, and I was like, oh, I don't know, the curb appeal or the whatever. And he said, no, the sign. You mean a really pretty for sale sign? He said, no. A sign's clear because who's going to buy? More likely than not, the guy who lives across the street and 2 doors down sees the sign being put up, and he knows that his best friend is looking for a house in this neighborhood, and immediately can call the best friend and say, Johnny, you got to get over here because there's a house for sale across the street and 2 doors over. And I've been there for birthday parties, and they have a great backyard, and our families could have barbecues together, and it's got a 2-car garage and the things that are going to be the hot items for Johnny because he knows Johnny. And so he can say, this is really, What does Johnny do? What's the number? Let me call. Let me set up. And boom. And you got it. You contract that day. Why? Because the sign sold the house. You, my dear, doing heart to heart is your sign. You're putting up your sign. This is who I am. And if you want to find a home that fits you, if you want to find a home where you can climb into a gondola anytime you want to, I know the place for you. If that's what's going to soothe you, then I will help you find the place. All of us are in that business.
Yeah.
How do we do business? The sign. How do we behave? In a public situation where we're wearing a name tag or we're not wearing a name tag, or we're on a podcast somewhere.
Yeah.
How do we, what's our real? What's real?
Yeah.
I can't have a sign that says a 5-bedroom house if there's only 3 bedrooms. It doesn't work that way. It's not true. We have to be authentic, but we have to put ourselves out there. We have to put up the sign and say, here's who I am. You feel free to reach out to me. And the privilege for those people to reach out is like, oh, can I add fuel to your fire? I ask. And the answer is a lot of times no. And sometimes it's like, yes, I would love a contact who does X. Oh, I got a guy. I know a gal. Yeah. Oh, you need a realtor in Texas? I know a gal. Huh. So there's a whole bunch of things. And so by telling our stories as ugly as they can be and as magnificently beautiful as they can be, we're putting up our sign. We're saying, I'm available to have this conversation. I'm more than willing to engage with you. Oh, sweetheart. Oh, who stole the show? Wow. And so that's right. And so that's what we do. That's why we share these stories. That's why it makes a lot of difference. Oh, look at those eyes. Wow. Someone is really loved.
He is.
That's why what's his name?
His name is Teddy. He belongs to my 19-year-old daughter, and he is
That's so
the
cute.
apple of everyone's eye in this house.
Everyone. Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Imagine
right,
someone
Wendy.
who's a dog lover who just said, oh.
And I wasn't. I
I
fought with my family for the longest time because I was like, I don't want another responsibility in the house. I don't want one.
Right.
I fought against him for the longest, for years. And so then the cats came, and before the cats, different things came, fishes, birds, cats, whatnot. But when he came, he made me think that I think only people who are loved by our creator ends up getting pets because they bring so much joy and love, unconditional love into your life, which human beings are not capable of giving. Even
and
as
we're not,
parents,
and but we crave it. We crave it.
Everyone
but we're
craves.
not, but we have judgments. We have, petty
We
disagreements.
can't even do that
A
for our
dog
children.
loves you. Correct.
But
Correct.
this dog,
And they can't do it for us.
Yes, they love you unconditionally, and they just fill your life with love, unconditional love. They look at you with all this love in their eyes, and they just consume you with love.
Mm-hmm.
And they make you
trust
feel
you.
the strength of love, and how love is this most powerful emotion that we as human beings we crave for it, and it's a necessity and it's a need, but we don't realize it.
Right.
And
It's my sister is very much a dog person, so she's got 2 dogs. I'm shocked they haven't been scratching the door. And 2 dogs, and she very much believes that they really they add so much, and to my parents' lives, they add so much. And we've had everything in my life: cats, dogs, horses. I had my own horse for 28 years. Everything. And you look at it, and the dogs are the timeline that kind of connects you, like, oh, when we had this happen, when we had this dog, and then when we had this dog, and then remember the day we got that dog. And it kind of connects you in a way, even as my parents' memory is a little bit not as sharp as it used to be. They can remember
Yeah.
the dogs, the events, the emotion behind getting them, and certainly the emotion behind losing them. God forbid. We don't, but things happen. We had a friend who was a very dear friend who was a veterinarian. He said, our dearest pets are given to us so that we can learn how to lose something we love.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a hard lesson, but it's a great lesson
Yeah.
because at some point in time, that's our life. That's life. It starts and
Yeah.
ends. So yeah, that's another wonderful facet of you is but that you were willing to change your opinion. That's very
Yes.
big because a lot of people are like, no, no, no. And then once you did a complete circle, like,
I
oh, I now understand. That's beautiful.
absolutely. I
Beautiful.
did not. I mean, I fought till the last minute until literally my daughter had her money for her 16th birthday, and she went. They did not tell me. She went with her father, and they came back with this tiny little palm-sized baby. And we were like, "Is this even real?" And this he entered our house and our lives. He created this space for himself, and now we are
Right.
just he is like, we just love him so much because he has just enriched our life, and he has filled our lives with love.
Isn't it funny how when we see a baby and it's like, and you bend down and you speak to the baby and it's this, and the baby reaches out these sticky little hands, and you're thinking, you'd never have that kind of you'd never get that instant reaction from a person. You'd be like,
Yeah,
nice to meet you, happy to make your acquaintance, nice doing business with you. But oh my gosh, the openness, pets are so open. They love
because
you.
it's
They want to be with
unconditional
you. They
love.
trust you.
Yeah.
It's unconditional. Unconditional. The day we do that for each other as human beings is the day we don't have problems with politics. We don't have problems with anything. When we get
Yeah.
to that space of unconditional love, where we understand, I don't have to agree with your opinion. We can agree to disagree,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean I can't love you. It's
Yeah.
important, and we're losing that a little bit. So.
I recently met someone, and he had such a nice perspective. He said, "Whatever anyone says, they're all opinions, and opinions don't matter. Everyone has a right to their opinion, and that's okay.
Right.
But their opinion
So
should
I
not impact."
So my business mentor is a fantastic man. And he said to me once, he said, people have two things. They have a rear end and they have an opinion. And sometimes both of them stink. That's what he said. Okay.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
sometimes, and you don't have to, you can just say, we agree to disagree and walk away. And
Yeah.
that's all. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's healthy. Okay, so tell me about you. I want to learn more about you. What's the
Me.
single most important? Yeah. What's the single most important thing you've learned in the past year with COVID and people being in home and shut down and changing your life as you have to bring up this beautiful podcast? Thank you for inviting me. What have you learned from that?
I have learned many things. For me, 2020 was a year which brought a lot of things, including change and growth, resilience, courage. So it brought a lot of things with it. It taught me that, you know, people are actually, there are a lot more similarities than there are differences.
Right.
My energy started attracting, especially in 2020. I was going through a bit of a chaos and crisis in 2019. So a lot of weird people were entering my life. And now that I reflect back, I can see some of that some of those things, and it's more visible now. But in 2020, a lot of good people started, especially with the podcast. The people who started entering my life, who they started bringing positivity, positive energy. They started opening different doors, and my path started to change, Wendy. And I so much that I'd been learning, I started utilizing it, executing it, because at the end of the day, knowledge is, I feel, redundant if you don't execute it, or if you don't apply it. So I think for
Right.
me, 2020 brought a lot of, life stopped, but it gave me a chance to um, build my relationship with my daughters. Just I slowed down and I
Amen.
spent time getting to know them at the stage of life where they were at, which was like 15,
Mm.
16, and 19. So it for me, 2020 will be a year that I will always remember as the year which helped me just slow down, get to see where my daughters were, understanding that they are their own little beings, and they have
Mhm.
not come into this life to become someone that I would like for them to be, because they're their own
Right.
individual beings. And my daughters, just last night, I was in bed and they were like, "Mom, your life is so boring. We really don't want a life like this." So I was like, you know what? Live your best life.
I hope you revisit that conversation in about 30 years when they're like, "Oh my gosh, we're so tired." You're like, "I'm
Yes.
not worn out. I got plenty of energy left." So that's
Yes.
fantastic. That's a
It's
great
wonderful.
lesson. That's really, and they'll never go away, because the presence of 2020, like
Yeah.
9/11, that presence will always be there, whether
Yeah.
we grieve, we go through it. We've lost a lot of people that you think, oh my gosh, how
Yeah.
could that person have succumbed? They were young, we just, there are a lot of things we can't know. I think for me, 2020
Yeah.
was about being present,
Yeah.
and that was a really being like in this moment. So I learned that in prison because I lived in that way, and then when I got out, it was so fast, and I did a like world speaking tour and stuff, and I forgot to be present for a long time, to like
Yeah.
just stop and have conversations. What I found is, when we have babies, they're like ma ma ma, and they cry, and then you go to them right away. Older children, our kids are 30 down to 19, for girl, boy, boy, girl. Oldest two are married with kids, and then the youngest two are in college. And I found that when they need you, when my kids need me, they need my full attention right there. If
Yeah.
they reach out and say, "Mom, I need to talk to you," it means that I have to push everything else aside. They don't need me all the time to change them, bathe them. Like, they don't need the all the time. When they need it, they need total focus. "Mom, I have a friend who's going through this issue. What do I do?" Those pertinent questions, and we have the opportunity to give them permission for their own kids to take that time and just be present. Everything
And
else
that is
stops,
something I'm
everything else
learning.
goes away for them. Me
That is
too.
something
Me
I'm
too.
learning.
It's hard. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard because I cannot multitask at all. I am the worst multitasker. I'll tell you my flaws. I mean, there's like a long laundry list. I never stop talking. Number one, my I cannot multitask at all. I have no capacity to do two things at one time. I can't drive and turn the radio on. Like, I cannot do it. I can drive or turn the radio on. I can't do both. So that said, and I also cannot remember, what was I saying? Wait, I can't. There's another thing I can't do. But the things, but I'm learning to like figure out that those are okay. Like, I don't have to do those things. I don't have to be a multitasker. I can do one thing, another thing. Oh, here's my best skill, my best worst skill. You ready? Nobody can trash a kitchen the way I can. I cook and it's everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. It's terrible. My youngest is like, what just happened? I said, breakfast. And she's like, no, it's not possible. Get out of the kitchen. My kids like have to send me out so they can clean it because it's terrible. So that said, like a lot of flaws, but being present is something that I wanted to do. I wanted to put into my life, and 2020 gave me the permission to have to do that. And so I can create. I'm a writer. I can create and be doing all this stuff. And we continued working and continued in film festivals. We all kinds of stuff for other projects. Like we did a lot of stuff. At the same time, I learned to just stop. When the kids came and the grandbabies were there, I could just stop. I need to be in Seattle to be with my parents and pay my mother the attention that she really needs right now. My father's already in the nursing home, and my mother, will join at some point in time. When I get to that space when she's like, okay, I just need to be with you, then I can just put the phone away, put everything away, play cards, look at pictures, just do what she needs in that moment. When the anxiety ratchets up, I don't know what's happening, I'm confused, I don't know. And then when she's like, okay, thank you so much. And then you can see, and then I don't feel guilty about it. I don't feel guilty about excluding everything else and just giving her that time, because that's something that, it's a blessing to be able to do that. So
That's also a
what I
skill.
learned in 2020.
That's a skill, right? To be able to live in the moment and to be present in the moment, and
I
whoever
hope
you
so.
are around,
I
give them
hope
that
so. That's a
divine
really good,
attention, right? That's something I need to work on.
yeah.
So
It's something that all of us benefit from working on. We can always all be better at that. So that's good. Again,
absolutely,
what did 2020 do to us, or what did we learn from it? Because I can
yeah.
extrapolate what I learned from it. I don't, it didn't impact us in some ways. In some ways, it did. So anyway, so
So Wendy, we
what
are
else
in
can
the
I
last.
possibly answer for you, my dear?
So we are in the last 6 minutes of our show, and I would like for you to share with us, where people can reach you, what you do. I know you have an
Oh, thank
upcoming
you.
project that you're working on, and so
Cool.
tell us what that project is about, and where people can connect with you.
Cool. So thank you so much. LinkedIn, Instagram, either the project is called My Golden Blood. And it's a book series that will go to most likely television. And we are so excited. This is a series of books written from the perspective of every kid who's ever stood at the doorway of their house and had their hand on the doorknob and heard chaos, strife, arguments going on inside. And this kid is standing there with that feeling in the pit of their stomach that, oh, it's starting again, and I have to go in there and fix it. So often in society, we have allowed or forced our kids to parent us and to take care of us, and even at a young age, which is far too young. So this is for every kid that faced that trauma and who really decided they would go in and be the border between two wars. Either it was between siblings, or it was between parents who were not getting along, or what have you. And so this is a story. This story, the hero in the story is a young man named Clay, who runs away from an abusive home, only to fall into the arms of a mentor who says, I am going to build you into something extraordinary. You're going to be my number one, and together we are going to change the world. And who doesn't want to believe they can change the world? And a young kid who's been told his whole life he can't do anything is really, it's a grand and this plan. So he becomes indoctrinated in this, and he works and he's fiercely, and as he grows up and he develops, but he's 99% unredeemable. And we pick the story up where he learns, sadly, that the mentor who sees greatness in him is really collecting broken young people and rebuilding them into weapons. And he has to decide, does he want to go along with this, or does he want to change, stop what he started, in essence? And that's what the story is about. And it's a powerful, it came from
Yeah.
Noah. He delivered it to me, and then we extrapolated on it, wrote the books and the scripts, and secured people in Hollywood that are working with us. And we
Wow.
are so blessed. We truly stand on the shoulders of giants. We really do. And we're very, very, very excited and very blessed. So I would expect, I can't make a prediction when it will come out, but I'll keep you posted.
Please do. And
That's
when the book is coming
so
out,
that's
we'll have to bring you
I'd love
back,
to.
and
I'd
we'll have
love to. Love to. It'd be so much
so
fun. It's exciting to work on a project where you so deeply Noah's why is that change people's perspective, and my
yeah.
why is to incite gratitude, and the two so beautifully mesh together in this story that it every day, every new situation, every scene is just a privilege to be involved. It's just a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun.
So next time we'll need to bring
And we
Noah
have an
with you.
amazing team.
Wow.
Oh, he hates this kind of thing. But for you, maybe. I don't know. For you. He said, I don't want to be in front of the camera anymore. I want to be behind the camera. And he's a fantastic director. Our goal here, and just a little, is my golden blood. Golden blood is a real thing. It's a very rare blood type. It's very, very, very rare. And
Okay.
we have decided to partner, and we've got initial permission from the Red Cross and Memorial Blood Centers to be able to partner with them to empower our audience to become blood donors for the first time. Because when you become a blood donor, you know what your blood type is. And what if they have golden blood? And the idea is that the smallest group of people who donate blood in the United States are our demographic, the psychographic, we're looking at the 16 to 30-year-olds. And so we want to empower people. And I'm a regular blood donor, when we donate 1 pint of blood, we save 3 lives. Imagine walking through the world knowing that you have just saved 3 people's lives, and you never know who they are. It could be a young mother, it could be a baby, it could be a grandparent who's in chemotherapy, someone who's having a transplant, who's in an accident, God forbid. You never know who they are, but your blood saved their lives. So we can all be that one who changes the world, and just by donating blood. So that's a side project that we'll do with this. So we know that we will be blessed. We will do well because we're going to do good. And so
Absolutely.
opportunity.
Absolutely.
That's
So that's what it is, right? Let's touch lives together. So that's what we are doing. We're out there. We're trying to change lives.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Well,
What a privilege to spend an hour with you. Thank you so much.
likewise. Absolutely, Wendy. It was an honor, privilege to have you on my show. Thank you for being here. I'm going to remove you from the stream, and I'm just going to do the ending. So, well, friends, as always, this is that 1 hour every week that I really look forward to, with all the guests who come in, and I feel they come in to change my life and to enrich my life, and they leave me a better person. So thank you so much for carving out the time to hear what was shared on today's podcast. If this inspired you to take the next step in your journey, then I want to invite you to join my email list by emailing vip@simadillon.com. And of course, if you think that this podcast episode will help someone else, then help me change lives. Just take 30 seconds to just simply share the link to the podcast in a text or post it on social media, and I will be so grateful. Until next time, thank you for being here.